All right, we're live. Uh, Happy Thursday, everybody. It's been a little bit since we've done a stream, so I'm really excited to be doing a stream, but especially incredibly excited. And I think we're all pretty uh, blessed right now to have an incredible artist, someone that I've been talking to for quite a while, trying to arrange getting him to come on stream. He's, I think, arguably the most innovative artist in comics over I don't know how many years. I mean, there's Bill Sienkiewicz, and there's some incredibly original artists that have come along. But this is, I think, one of the most courageous artists that I've ever seen. I'm a huge fan. He does a lot of sketchbook work, which is what we're going to be doing tonight, and I'm really excited about it. Also, you guys are going to see a lot of his artwork that has never been seen because it's all sketchbook work, the kind of stuff that he does for himself, just to experiment, try out ideas, and really never show anybody, so he can just be really free with it. So it's a really big deal that we're getting to see a lot of this stuff, and we're going to do some drawing together. So I want to welcome. Also, I want to mention. He worked for Marvel Comics for a long time. He started with Kevin. Was it a start? But one of his earliest projects was Kevin Smith comic, Clerks, one of my favorite movies. So it's crazy. He's been basically everywhere and done just about everything, and does some of the most beautiful work that I've ever seen. I'm very thrilled that we have with us Jim Mahfood.
Yes.
Hold on, layout. Jim, there we go. All right.
And thank you. Thanks, David, for the fantastic introduction. I appreciate that.
Also,
thank you.
The nicest studio I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, I just moved into this new space like 4 months ago, and I just figured just rent a small warehouse, and that way I have plenty of room for art and hosting disco parties or whatever I want to do, roller skating jam. I don't know, but I can also ship. I can also have all my product here that I ship out of my website on my store. I sell like books and prints and stuff like that. So I have plenty of room to just kind of live and work here.
Yeah, it looks amazing. You're pretty heavily involved in the music scene where you are too. So when you say you have disco parties, I'm not sure if you're being serious. Maybe.
Yeah, I'm not yet, but who knows? We'll see. I know a lot of DJs in this town, so and I have turntables and right back there in my records and stuff. So playing music always. That's kind of one of my main things too. Is just like drawing the music, hanging out all day, and having music on, and just doing my work. And it's kind of a big part of like the aesthetic of what I do.
And before we go on, I want to mention that I think we have at the top of the chat, there are some books that you can find from Jim. He's got the Ballpoint Slayer Volume 1. It's going to be out in just a few weeks. It's all the kind of drawing that Jim's going to be doing tonight, and we're going to be trying to follow along. And you'll see a whole bunch of that kind of work in just a minute. But yeah, a great book to look out for. Also, Girl Scouts Stone Ghost trade paperback. It's Jim's creator-owned comic series, and you can get it at jimmahfood.com. He also has a Tank Girl print, also at jimmahfood.com, and Trash Movie Bonanza. I'm sorry, this one I didn't know. It's a new YouTube, so it's new. It's a new YouTube show that he's doing with Chris from Comic Tropes. I've watched a bunch of Comic Tropes. It's a great channel, so that's exciting.
Yeah. Chris is a buddy of mine. We just started. Dave, your reaction to the title of that was priceless. That was awesome. So because I didn't prepare you for it, but yeah, we're Chris, who does Comic Tropes on YouTube, a fantastic YouTube show. Him and I are doing a new YouTube show where we talk about like terrible B movies and schlock horror and stuff like that. So the first episode of that will be debuting in a couple of weeks here. But so yeah, it's just representing all my interests between posting art online, talking about terrible movies, the music that we like. It's that's for me what social media and the internet is for. Like I don't get involved in like arguments with people. For me, it's just fun. Like comics, art. Your show is incredible because you're sharing ideas, and actually educating people. And it's kind of like, that's the whole point, is spreading inspiration and fun, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree. And I mean, there's a place for arguing, and I'm sure it's necessary. But it's not my favorite. And yeah, definitely, certainly for this channel, and obviously for yours. It's just nice to talk about our love for the medium, and for other mediums. So
Yes.
So I just want to say, if you don't mind, Jim, I want to show this off. So you guys remember I mentioned Nick Klein, who I'm a huge fan of. And Henry Jeremick, actually, before we started, asked if I got any artwork at OAX. So I want to show you guys this. Here, hold on. I just got to see this. So I actually haven't paid for it yet. I'm trading. It was an art collector I got this from. So I have to draw stuff for him. But here, look at that.
That's great.
Yeah.
It's gorgeous.
Page from Thor. So yeah, I was pretty proud of that. And I got a painting from Miles Wool. So
yeah,
it's got a glare. There you go.
Damn, awesome.
Yeah, so I was pretty happy. Anyway,
Dave, so Jason Schachner from Essential Sequential was walking through the lobby of the hotel at OAX and had that whole double page spread with him, just casually. Like, and Sean Crystal and I were like, what is that? And he showed it to us. It was like completely mind blowing, man. He's like, oh, this is for David Finch. Grab this. Like,
yeah, we've been discussing the terms of how I could possibly get that picture for like 2 days. So
the amount of binders full of original art there, I've never seen anything like that. There were people sitting in the courtyard of the hotel just with like tog bags and carts full of folios with sequential art, and it was just amazing.
Yeah, so sorry about that, Jim, but I really wanted
to show it off. It was I was glad to be there. It was cool that we all were at OAX together just a week and a half ago, or whatever that was. But it was a blast, man. And it's kind of like Eric was saying, it's like just the amount of art, portfolios, inspiration there. It's awesome.
Yeah, it was a great show. I'm looking forward to next year, and I'm sure there'll be another year. It did so well. It was a good show.
Yeah.
So I've got my ballpoint pen ready to go.
Yes, I'm gonna switch my camera here.
And so am I. And you guys know what this means. It means I'm going to be grabbing my camera physically and shuffling around. But here we go.
All right. I'll show you guys some stuff real quick. Basically, part of my daily routine, I've always been a sketchbook worker. So I kind of started this routine 20-something years ago, but just straight in pen drawing in a sketchbook pretty much every morning just to get loose. And the reason I go straight in pen is I feel like it kind of introduces a bit of this like fearless attitude toward approaching drawing. Like you don't have to be apprehensive or overthink things. And when I'm working in a sketchbook, I guess I just sort of have this idea like this is my personal journal, so no one's really going to see this. So there's no pressure really to produce like incredible, mind-blowing work because no one's going to see it. And without that pressure, ironically, I get what I think are some of my best pieces out of that. Like some of my personal favorite stuff comes out of just these weird experiments in the morning while I have a cup of coffee and maybe a Pop-Tart or something. But this is kind of like I'm if there's any school of illustration that I'm from, I'm kind of more from like the mixed media, like Bill Sienkiewicz school of like, just sort of go for it and make marks and see what happens and kind of figure things out as you're going along. So there's a lot of like academic stuff that I learned in college and art school, I guess in my work, but there's this large element of freestyle and improv that just kind of happens with this stuff.
And the way that we're going to do it tonight, the way I usually work in my sketchbook is I'll just find like a photo reference. Generally, most of the poses, most of the figures in these pieces are from photo reference. And then I'll just have that on my phone as I'm in a coffee shop or whatever, and I'm drawing, and I'll start with a figure first and then kind of like build around that. And so these pieces, what they become is like you have a pose, but then you also have the rest of it becomes like a study and understanding of like space, design, shape, texture, detail. So, you know, I mean, this piece started off with this girl right here. This was like a photo reference shot of her. And then, you know, building a skull around her, a vomiting Ninja Turtle right down here. I love doing lettering. So like welcome up here. But yeah, I mean, it's just all fun. It's just, and so the way this applies to my professional work is when I have to do a finished piece, like a cover or an illustration for someone, this just kind of like sets the tone for me just sitting down and doing sketches and being able to, you know, just kind of fearlessly without wasting time, just make marks, go for it. And I'll probably do 20 or 30 sketches for one cover. And then 2 or 3 of those are good. And then one of those gets actually developed into the cover. So for example, I did a Spider-Punk cover recently for Marvel, and I turned in a couple different ideas. The main idea that they dug was just this very simple image of him on like a Vespa, like a scooter. And then I take this, I light box it, and then it becomes, you know, the finished cover there.
Wow.
So there's still, you know, there's elements of like tightness in my finished work, but then there's also elements of loose that are kind of like that scratchy kind of style. But I'm purposefully doing that because for me, like my philosophy is kind of like the looser the art is, the looser the line work is, the more kinetic the drawing appears to be. And I kind of want the idea of like my drawings are like vibrating a little bit. Like there's a bit of movement to them. And there's these, and you can see like, to me, I can see it, but I'm drawing to music because to me, there's like these patterns of movement and kind of energy that are done to the rhythm of music, if that makes sense. I don't know. So,
okay, but I understand what you're saying, but I would definitely say for me, I'm just coming from such a different place that it'd be really interesting to try that. I've never, and I rarely draw to music actually, which is probably, you know, I really should and see what I get from that. I've never really thought of it that way.
yeah. Do you, Dave? Do you draw to anything, any entertainment going on around you, like TV, movies, or?
I do, yeah. You know, a lot of movies. I do a lot of, I want to say books on tape, but you know, Audible.
Oh yeah.
Just something in the background. Audible is great because I'm not having to look up at it, which is nice. I can just kind of follow along.
Yeah. I get in that mode too. Like when I'm done or when I'm almost done with a piece and I'm just inking or filling in blacks or scanning artwork or zip-a-toning or whatever. I'll pop on a movie or an audio commentary or like a YouTube show or something. This is an example of a cover I did for Ed Piskor's Red Room comic book. And this is just an example of like, this is about as tight as my work gets with like specific line work. All the zip-a-tone, the gray tone in here is all cut by hand. Old school style, pretty crazy. Wow.
Yeah, nobody does that
so
anymore.
Jim, do you try and finish it like these pieces that you're showing? That one page, that's just like one per day that you try aim for?
In the sketchbooks?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just like I'll do 1 or 2 of those in the morning at breakfast.
That's great.
And you know, I'll hang out at the coffee shop and start my day and just hang out for like 2 hours. And like I just did these yesterday. I did this one and this one. And again, just photo reference on the poses, and then the rest is just me having fun and letting the day start, letting the caffeine kick in. And again, like, since there's no one watching me, like no one's going to see these, I can just sort of do whatever I want. So the idea of doing this tonight on your show in front of people is interesting. I mean, I'm not I'm not too nervous, but I'm also like, oh shit, I've never done it like live, really. Although I used to do live art in nightclubs, like with DJs playing records. Like we would do San Diego Comic-Con parties, and Scott Morse and I and David Mack and, you know, Ben Temple Smith, like we would set up big boards and do huge 4-foot tall paintings. Ashley Wood joined us at one point. And so it's one of those things of like, you're drawing this small every day, or 11 by 17 every day when you're working on comics.
Yeah.
What's the transition of like going to 4 feet tall? You know,
well, I know for me, it's not good. I've done it, and yeah, it's a tough one. But I just don't have a natural, just let the pen kind of lead me where it goes kind of mentality. So I think it makes it really difficult to just a page that big. I just feel overwhelmed, you know.
it's challenging.
I want to mention we got a comment about the fact there's a little bit of nudity. I actually, and I apologize, I wanted to say something just at the beginning of this. Now it's all right. It's something we actually discussed and talked with Jim about. It's all tasteful work, and it's art, and you know, art sometimes has a little bit of nudity in it. So we kind of debated back and forth a little bit, but I felt like it would be all right. I did want to, you know, give you guys a bit of a warning.
Yeah, and also this is Jim's private work, which, you know,
yeah,
he's giving us just insight into, you know, what he does every day. So he's just allowing us to see see stuff that, you know,
like Black Spiders says, it's with good taste. It is, and also, I mean, this is incredible work. It's like nothing else out there, and I really wanted to be able to bring this to you guys. So
yeah, I'm really excited about what Jim's going to show us, because I know me personally, when I'm drawing, I get so tightly wound with trying to draw. You know what I mean? I think drawing with, like you mentioned, Jim, the ballpoint pen, and just letting things, you know, flow a lot more without fear. I'm really looking forward to that tonight, because you know, that's definitely a problem I have when drawing. Everything has to be, you know, pinpoint accurate, and I erase 10 times before I find a good line. You know, so I'm really excited to see that.
Yeah, I just think it's a fun exercise. I mean, it's definitely not for everyone, but one of the main questions I get asked by young artists at every convention I do is like, how do you develop a unique drawing style? Like, how do you stand out? And for me, it really was just drawing in a sketchbook relentlessly, basically almost every day. Like, it's just part of my daily habit. And by doing that, you know, you make lots of mistakes, which you hopefully know to avoid those moving on. Like, well, get rid of that. That didn't work. But then the couple little gems that come out, the couple little stylistic things, line work, design decisions, the approach to, you know, how to manipulate the tool, all those little gold nuggets, that's what I save and put into my arsenal of like what becomes my style. And then over the course of months or years of doing that, for me, that's how I've developed, you know, having a look that stands out, and a look that's basically become my brand at this point, that extends beyond just comic books, where I can work in like advertising, illustration, animation design. You know, I worked on the first Spider-Verse movie as one of the character designers. And with a gig like that, those producers were smart enough and cool enough to be like, okay, for the designs for Spider-Verse, we want you to just do a bunch of weird, crazy stuff. So here's all the characters we want you to take a pass on. Go nuts, make it as crazy as you want, and then we will rein you in as we see fit as things start to come in. But we want to start you off at like 10. So just go nuts, have fun. We want to do something experimental with this movie. let's see what happens. And, you know, they're doing that with like 50 other designers, obviously. So to be part of that was a huge honor. And then they take all of our work and kind of like take bits and pieces out of each guy's stuff that they like, and then Frankenstein it all together for a final look. And, you know, I've worked on other productions like that too, where it's like, well, my work isn't necessarily on screen, but the ingredients of what I'm doing and the vibe that I'm putting out, that's going into the final product.
Yeah, for sure. So we have a super chat from Rob Langford for $5. Thank you very much, Rob. He says, picked up a pencil for the first time in 20 years. Thanks to you and your tutorials videos, David. I'm not great, but finally feel the joy of creating. Well, that's awesome. I'm so glad to hear that you're drawing, and you know what? You get better all the time just by doing it. And I hope that not only you, but all you guys give this a try. And I'm excited to try myself. I think it's going to be a blast, however it goes. And since we're just about to start, I want to show you guys quickly the reference. Let's see if I can find it on here. All right. So I'm going to show you guys my screen really quickly. All right, so there you go. That's the reference that we're going to be using for this, just so you guys have an idea kind of where the starting point is. So with that, we'll get started.
Yeah, let's do it. And I'll show you guys a quick thing too, why I chose this reference. It's a cool pose. She looks good. I like drawing female characters, but also if you're wondering like, how do you approach this whole like freestyle thing? One really easy way to approach it, one reason I chose this is just the basic shapes, which is you have a circle right here, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have a triangle right here. I should be doing this with a white pen, but you have a square right here. There's like a little tube right here for her arm. There's another square right here for her laptop or her purse or whatever. And then you have a tube for her leg and a tube right here for this leg. So that's kind of how I look at photo reference is I'm breaking it down into these shapes. And then I'm kind of in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, just work inside these shapes. And then if you want to go out of this shape and do like stuff coming out of her, psychedelic shapes, whatever, if you want to add a little logo to her shirt, that's cool. Something can go over here. But that's kind of one of the, I'm putting a blueprint inside my brain before I'm actually going to just straight pen on this, you know.
That makes a lot of sense, and it's a lot more effective than kind of starting with an eye and getting all that detail in there, and then the other one doesn't line up, and you know, which I think we've all been there.
Yeah. It's interesting because everybody approaches reference differently. Everybody, you know, has their own eye for things. So that's one of my favorite things about drawing and about art is that everyone's got their own thing, you know.
Extreme maybe asks if you're self-taught.
You know, sort of, but I wound up when I was a kid growing up in St. Louis, I actually got a gig with a local publisher when I was 15 years old. These guys that were making creator-owned comics, and I became like their office apprentice. And they're the guys that kind of taught me, like, this was pre-internet, so they're the guys that taught me, like, here's the tools you use for doing comics and the inking tools. And so they eventually started letting me ink on some of the backgrounds of their comics, and that's kind of where I got some of my training. And then I wound up going to art school in mid 90s. I went to Kansas City Art Institute out here, and pretty decent school, but I just got lucky. And my freshman year, I met this guy, Mike Huddleston, who's an absolutely brilliant illustrator, comic book artist. He's working with Jonathan Hickman right now on 3 Worlds, 3 Moons.
He's great. I've never met him. I don't think. Pretty sure I haven't met him. But yeah, he's a great artist.
He's awesome, man. So he was 2 years older than me in school, and I started inking the comics that he was working on, and we became roommates. And then my buddy Nathan Fox also moved in with us. Nathan's also incredible published comic book artist, does a book called Weatherman at Image, and also teaches at SVA. And so between, living in a house with those two dudes, that was kind of like, that was the real art education was.
Yeah. Now, for some reason, your camera kind of came out of focus. I don't know.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Let's see.
And everything was fine. We're showing, all your sketchbook, and then all of a sudden,
I don't think it's out of focus. I think it froze.
Oh,
no, his hand was there, and it was.
Huh.
And also, there we go. Yeah, perfect. Darn it. That was quicker than I wanted it to be. I'm trying to keep up.
I started over, by the way.
Do anything I could do to try and throw a wrench in the works right now.
Right. There's no, there's no time limit on this stuff. It's just however people can, do what they need to do. And
would you consider yourself to be a competitive artist at all with other artists?
not really. Because I feel like all my friends that I hang out with that are professionals, I feel like they're so good that it would be weird to have to even think about them as competition. So I just consider myself to be in this like separate category, basically.
Well, I think that's pretty fair, actually. You really are definitely in a separate category. I think, in terms of the quality of the work that you're doing and the talent, I mean, that's another story. I think you're definitely, pretty amazing.
Thanks, Dave.
There's
It means a
nobody-
lot coming from you because I feel like you're just crushing it on such a amazing level right now. I mean, you always have been, but like seeing the new work you're doing, seeing originals at OAX, seeing the painted stuff you're doing, it's a incredible time right now. I don't know how you feel about it, man, but I feel like we're in like the golden age of talent right now. Like, I don't know if there's ever been a more glorious era as far as like just straight up raw talent.
I think that's true. A huge part of that is we just have so many incredible artists from all around the world in a bigger way than there were artists, incredible artists from South America and Europe, but there was always a language barrier. But with the internet now, that's kind of gone, and it's just really opened up the market to so many great artists.
Yeah.
And I think there's just so much more information out there too, and it's making more people find it approachable to start. I remember, and I'm sure for every artist is different. I just didn't see art as being any kind of a viable thing at all, and I ended up doing it. I'm a high school dropout. I had no choice. I had nothing else, So I kind of had to make it work, or I had nothing. So, but nowadays, I think people are seeing it more as just something that is a viable thing. There's an actual career, and you can make a life out of it.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I think you're right, man. Cause like the amount of information that's available. I remember when everybody was on DeviantArt, years ago, and it became like this community of just sharing, and like I mentioned, when I was a kid, and I don't know if you feel the same way. I feel like when we were kids that the information was just so limited I didn't even know how comics were drawn. I thought as a kid that I would just have to move to New York City and you just go work at Marvel Comics. You know, you go in every day and that's your day job if you're lucky.
Oh yeah. Well, I remember when I tried to break in the first time, I went with my mother to New York. She drove me, and it was a good 15-hour drive. Drove me all the way there. We got there, and you get to the Marvel office, which is the address is in the book, so it was easy to find. But getting through the front door, yeah, it's a different story. I don't know what we were thinking. You know, we just thought, hey, we'll come in and it'll all be easy. It was not.
Oh, so you just showed up at Marvel?
Yep.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, and now that didn't work out for me.
Awesome.
I didn't get work. I met Bob Budiansky, who is a longtime editor there, and he was really nice and pretty supportive. And no work came out of it, but you know, at least it was something. My mother was a little disillusioned. I think both of I don't know what we were thinking, you know, but we just never tried anything like it. So we had a question about what kind of pen you're using. It is a ballpoint pen. That's what we're all using. So
Yeah, I got this Sharpie.
Those are great.
This is weird. Like, so I've been using in all the drawings I showed earlier, I've been using the Sharpie S Gel pen, the 0.7. And then I was at Target like a couple days ago running errands, and I found just this. It just says Sharpie, and it's like this kind of sexy, sleek metal encased pen with some nice weight to it. So that's what I'm using tonight because this is the David Finch live stream. And I've got to bring the classy tools.
Yeah, we're a classy outfit here. You guys can all tell by my great intro that we have for the show. And you know what? Ultimately, I do want it to be probably a little more professional. I need to be working on it, and we've been talking about that. But really, it's so much about the artwork, and that's what I want to be able to bring to you guys. And being able to bring an artist like Mahfood here, that's the goal for me. So production value definitely takes a backseat to the kind of great artists we've been able to get. So definitely. We have a super chat from Fraser Oakley for $5 pounds. First time here in a while, 1:30 a.m. UK. Well, thanks for being here. It's a little late. Any plans for another portfolio review stream soon? Working on some pages I'd love for you to see. Cheers. Yeah, Eric, we need to do that. We need to just do it.
Yeah. We kind of booked a little bit with, some other exciting announcements with artists. I think maybe once that calms down a bit, we can probably do that. I think we booked Dave, almost into April.
We have, but I think we could just maybe slot one in there because I've been promising that we would do that for a long time and we haven't done it. So let me just say, maybe in the next 2 weeks, let's just do it like on a Monday or something.
Yeah.
So we've just been promising for so much, and I'm you guys know how it is. We're always busy. So yeah, within 2 weeks, we'll set it for a Monday or Tuesday.
Dave, when you mentioned your mom going to Marvel with you, like when my folks realized that I was super serious and determined to do art as a career, comics specifically, they were encouraging about it, but at the same time they said, well, we don't know anything about that field. Like, we don't know how to help you. So if you want to go for it, we definitely think you should go for it, but we don't know what we can do, to help out other than this interesting situation happened where my last grandparent, my grandmother on my mom's side, passed away, and no one in the family realized that her and my grandfather had a bunch of money, and my grandmother was huge on education, so she left it in her will that all of her grandchildren get tuition out of this money. So that's kind of how I was able to go to art school, because even in the early 90s, art school, I mean, I'm sure it's like 5 times as much now, but it was still very expensive for my folks, where You know, so I was in this rare situation where I got to go to college and I didn't have student loans. So thank you so much, Grandma. And I hope you're not embarrassed about what I did with that.
I'm sure she'd be very, very proud. What do you think you got out of school? Do you think it really helped your work?
Yeah. Okay. So the big game changer for me out of school and out of going through the illustration department was as soon as we were forced to do live figure drawing from a nude model academic style every single day, that completely changed my drawing game forever. So I was just looking at comic books and you know, I don't know, I guess magazines and stuff as far as like how to draw and how to draw the human figure. And a couple of my instructors saw the comic books. I was bringing in some of the, you know, like early 90s image stuff. And some of my instructors saw what I was looking at, what I was trying to do. And they were like, oh, kid. Okay. Well, don't worry. We'll teach you how to actually draw. If you want to draw the figure, like, we'll show you how to draw. And then I started bringing in like Kent Williams and Dave McKean, Arkham Asylum and stuff like that. And they were like, oh, damn. Okay. We didn't know that comics could be this because this is straight illustration, you know.
It's great they're so receptive to it because there are definitely academics that I don't care what you show them, it's comics and they just won't see it. So it sounds like you're in a good place for it.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that was the rigorous figure drawing classes that really was the game changer for me. Just observing from life and really figuring out like, because obviously with what we do, man, I mean, comics and basically all the illustration work I do is all figurative based. So that's the foundation for everything we're drawing. So you have to get that right. You know, I mean, that's 101 right there.
Well, yeah. And with your drawing, you go so far away from the original reference and not just in terms of detail, but also just proportion and everything. It really becomes entirely your own drawing, but what you're picking up from the reference still adds so much to it. It gives it a real grounding, you know? And I think it's an important skill. Something that I really should be working on more is actual figure drawing from life. I've just really never done it.
Oh, that's surprising to hear.
You know what? I wanted to be a comic artist. That's all I ever aspired to be. And I always focused on that. And I just never, I've learned everything basically from other comic artists. And everybody says you shouldn't do that. And it's true, you shouldn't do that. But it is what I did.
Right. But I mean, man, I've watched your videos and you've mastered anatomy. Like, you know what you're doing, you know what to exaggerate, you know proportions and shadow and structure of everything. So it's kind of like when I mentioned, you know, the 90s comics that I brought in that my teachers kind of hesitated about. Yeah. Those were I'm not talking really about Jim Lee. I'm talking about other examples of like anatomy and line work that's just disguising like bad drawing.
Oh yeah.
And you know what you really want is as exaggerated as you want to get with your own personal style, you really want to have like some sort of academic foundation for where this is all coming from, you know.
Yeah, and well, I don't have that foundation, but I do have Frank Frazetta and Alan Davis and Kevin Nolan and so, you know, I'm always torn because I always give the advice, if you want to learn how to do comics, you really need to look at other comic artists and not just illustrators too, because there's just so much history of knowledge and innovation out there. To ignore it, I think is a real mistake.
Yes.
but it doesn't necessarily mean you want to be the kind of artist that I am, where I am really entirely influenced by comics. It's what I love, and I honestly wouldn't be true to myself trying to be a different kind of artist. So I do think you have to find the kind of artist you want to be, not necessarily a style, because you can find that other ways, but just your philosophy, I think, is important to know. And I certainly did for me.
Yeah, that's the key, man. That's like, it's also too like, for me, we spend so much time on our craft that if I'm going to be spending all this time hunched over a drawing table every day, I want to be enjoying it. And for me, I've kind of really, drawing is just fun. Like I really, really look forward to drawing every day. And when I take breaks to travel, or I take a day or 2 or 3 off for the holidays or whatever, I'm generally ready and excited to get back into the studio to
Oh, yeah.
make work again. And I also think, and a lot of this ballpoint pen stuff that I showed you guys, I also think a lot of this stems from the fact that I just think that I'm a graphomaniac, where I have to make lines on paper every day. Even if it's not an actual paid assignment or an illustration, if I'm just doodling like you would when you're, on the phone with a friend or something, or if you're in class and you're drawing in your notebook while you're supposed to be paying attention or whatever to a lesson, like for me, I just really, really am excited to make lines on paper every day. And it sounds almost like childlike or whatever, but I mean, I think that that's okay to root it in something that primitive almost, you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, it's certainly that way for me. I have a really hard time going on vacation and just not working. So I don't sketch, and I think I'd like to actually start doing that a little bit more. This is so much fun. Just what I'm doing right now, it's really not like what you're doing, unfortunately, but I never do this where I'm just having fun with it.
Yeah, dude, that's awesome.
I think it's great. I'd like to do it more. But regardless, just bringing work.
I do like the removal of the safety net here. It does force yourself just to let go after a while. I started one and I scrapped it before about half an hour ago, and the second go around definitely feels a lot different, just because I was just like, screw it, And,
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So yeah, I think I'm going to invest in a sketchbook as well. And embarrassingly enough to admit, I don't draw every day like I should. And
Well,
part of that is because what's that?
Speaking of embarrassing, it's 8:43. I feel like it's a good time to show quickly how we're coming along here. So hold on. Oh, sorry. I removed Eric. I'm sorry, Eric.
All right.
Oh, nice.
Awesome. So how do you feel about it? Just you're throwing stuff down with a pen, so you can't really make any.
It's not easy. I'll tell you that. It looks like it might be, but it certainly isn't. And the problem is, I want to sketch like it's with a pencil. It's just
Well, and I'm
throw a line
definitely
down and then live with it.
Yeah, and my work is so rendering based. A lot of comic book rendering. The idea of just letting go the way that Jim is, and I've been kind of looking up at it and trying to pick up a little bit of that, but it's really difficult. I think
what it is doing is it's forcing me to, as Jim showed, it's forcing me to look at relationships.
Yeah.
And get out silhouettes and shapes. So that's great,
I meant to do that, and I totally lost sight of that pretty early on. So here, I'll show you mine. So this is where I'm at right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, dude.
You guys got the whole figure knocked out.
Well, that's the problem. Now we don't know what to do with it.
I know. This is where I'm like, okay, now I need to be creative, and I've been trying to be a little bit.
Yeah, that's the problem now. I was trying to figure that out.
And I feel like I'm kind of lacking some of the language of just being able to detail in more of the free way that you do. I don't want to saddle this with the kind of
So-
rendering that I normally do.
So Jim did send some more reference. Now that reference
Oh,
that
yeah. Yes.
is that something that you're looking to employ in this piece?
Yeah, that's backup for the situation that we're in right now. This is actually perfect timing because if I have space left over in my drawings, I'll just kind of still look around for other reference. So I sent you guys kind of that weird photo of like the ghost dog thing.
Yeah.
Like maybe he goes in like the corner over here or one of the Japanese robot things or whatever. But that's kind of the fun of these sketchbook pieces is just putting together different elements and you don't really know what's going to come out of it. I like the unpredictableness of that. And so maybe you throw in, was it Ultraman?
Yeah, there's an Ultraman. There's I don't know what that creature is, but okay. So just incorporate this wherever and just have fun with it.
I say go for it. Yeah.
I'm letting go, and I'm going to try and throw some stuff in here. So here we go.
And if you guys can't afford a nice sketchbook, I even have like old school just notebooks of this kind of stuff. So this cost $1 at your local drugstore, but these are I'll just travel sometimes with a notebook and have this is a list of movies I want to watch that are but I'll write down like story ideas. I'll do a drawing of like Blade the Vampire Hunter with Casper the Friendly
That's
Ghost
awesome.
as his assistant.
That's great.
Marvel, call me. I'm available to do a Blade comic, I guess.
Well, there's a movie coming out, so I would imagine there'll probably be some comics to go on.
Oh, okay. Perfect timing then.
Yeah, it is.
Perfect timing.
So this is ballpoint pen, which is great actually. If you do have just really cheap paper, ballpoint pen works on anything. But you also sketch with some other tools too. We were talking about that before we started the stream. So I wonder if you could talk about some of those a little bit too. And maybe I don't want to interrupt you, but show just a little bit of.
Oh yeah, I've got actually right here. This is my other favorite tool, the Pilot Parallel Pen, which is a refillable calligraphy pen that you're actually drawing with a squared off metal chisel. And I have I have a sketchbook here, and this is all calligraphy pen based drawings, along with the Japanese brush pen that I love. Dave, I think you use these, right?
Yeah, that exact one. Do you know what it's called?
This is awesome. I love this tool. So
Yeah,
this
great.
guy and this guy together, and I'll do, this kind of stuff. This was
love
this
that
is done live. This is Sean Crystal interviewing the legendary editor Bob Schreck in 2019 at my apartment when I lived in Portland. And there's one of I think there's one of Bendis as well. Hold on. Let me see here. Oh, this is Sean interviewing Nick Darrington. There's Nick. There's Sean. These are done in like 15 minutes, 20 minutes. I don't know. Very, very fast. And then Sean interviewing Brian Bendis at his home in
Great.
Portland, Oregon. So Portland, Crystal and Bendis. And then, I'll get into some mixed media stuff with these sketchbooks where it's the calligraphy pen, but also watercolor and gouache and that kind of stuff.
There's a pen that Ryan Stegman told us about, and I had it here with me, and now I don't know where it is. I think you'll really enjoy it. Well, one of them is the PN, the Micron PN, And then there's another one. It's like a ballpoint pen, and he actually did a stream with us and did the whole piece. He inked it with that pen. I can't remember.
Really?
I think Russ might know what it's called. Russ, if you know, put it in the chat. I think you'd get a kick out of that, Jim.
Okay, that's awesome.
It's got a very fine. It's a ballpoint, I think, but it's got a very fine tip. Super fine.
Is there an artist out there that isn't a sucker for new pens?
I know, man. It becomes like almost like a fetish thing or something of like, you know, you go to an art store with a bunch of artists and everyone's like, check out this new thing. Look at
got
this
a new sword.
I am a big Stegman fan though. That guy can make some drawings.
Yeah, we had a real fun stream with him.
Yeah, he's really, really dynamic.
I have to find that pen. It's not bothering me. If I do find it after the stream, I'll email you and let you know.
Oh, please do.
I don't know if that's the one. It had a weird name. I'll figure it out.
So this is the part where I'm resorting to copying some of the stuff you're doing.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Come on, Dave. Put Ultraman in there.
Well, you know, I don't really have the, you know, I should do that. I'll give that a try. But I don't have the language for the kind of, you know, creative shapes.
Yeah,
so
I'm struggling a bit there for sure.
And it's now, in my defense, we're doing this in front of an audience too, so I'm very self-conscious about putting something in that just looks awkward. But
yeah, it's funny because I realized when I'm doing this stuff in the morning, I have my earbuds in and I'm reflective in the morning and zoning out to music and stuff, and so I'm just fully. My mind is always thinking about the next move of what is going to happen in the drawing. And so it's interesting to be conscious of being on a live stream, talking, because that affects the way the work is coming out. You know, it's
do you feel like it's making you try things that you're feeling a little bit more self-conscious about it right now, or are you just kind of relaxing with it? So by now, after
I'm relaxing with it now, but it because I kind of can get on automatic pilot with certain things, but it's also like starting the piece off. I was kind of like, I had a brief moment where I was like, oh wait, okay, if I draw her head this big, how much space is that going to give me? You know, it's like you really have to make space decisions sort of right away with a lot of this improv stuff, because once it's down, and you're not really gonna, I mean, unless you want to start over, it's like, well, that's the spatial arrangement of where things are happening. So there you go.
Yeah. Yeah. Once it's down and you're going with it. I have that happen drawing finished pages sometimes where I have all kinds of time to lay things out and I don't really do it properly. Next thing you know, and I've put so much work into it, I just don't want to start again.
Right.
This is where capes come in. Can solve so many problems just by putting in a cape.
When in doubt, left it out.
Yeah. Capes and rocks, like the Rob Liefeld kind of, you know, round boulder coming up over there. Anyway.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's one of the things I like drawing about girls too is like the hair I can use as a design element to hide anatomy that might not be working out, like to hide where the neck meets the shoulder, or well, like for example in this drawing I used the hair to just basically hide everything going on here with like, how does the shirt work, how did the fold work? It's like, well, that's just all hair now. But it looks cool.
Yeah, it looks great. It really is. That's a cape. It's same concept. I do think the more you draw, well, and part of the reason why what you're doing is such a great thing, just sketchbooking, you start to develop solutions for problems. So when they come up, you have like a whole range of possibilities that you could try, and you don't get just stuck.
Right. Yeah, and it does help with the finished work, man, especially like with, because there's times where I feel like I'm such an inker, like I'm so in love with the actual process and the tools of inking that there's times where I find myself where I just like the penciling almost begins to feel like homework, like a chore.
Yeah.
And that's obviously the foundations. That's basically the most important part, especially with the comics. That's where the storytelling and everything comes in. But there's almost times where I'm like, I just want to ink today. Like I just want to get to the fun, the fun part. It's almost like the inking is the reward, you know.
Oh yeah, all the layout decisions are done. You know the basic, concept is sound, and then it's just detail, and that's I love doing that. I find I can't watch movies or books on tape or anything really until I've got some of that stuff worked out, and then the rest of the day is just relaxing. That is what I enjoy. I know there are some artists their favorite part is the layout, and it's definitely not me.
Yeah. I mentioned that publisher in St. Louis when I was a kid. I basically started off with inking other people, and then I got some paying work with Mike Huddleston when we were in college. We wound up doing a Legion of Superheroes, like 10-page story for DC Comics Showcase 95 was the name of the book. Bo Smith wrote the story, Mike penciled, I inked, and then Mike and I got a gig at Caliber Comics in like 96.
Oh, I remember Caliber, yeah.
Doing a book called Rust. And it was written by this cat, Steve Miller, not the musician, not Space Cowboy Steve Miller. Unfortunately.
That was going to be my next question, but okay.
That would have been incredible. It's like, hey, we're working with Steve Miller. He's amazing. And that was the thing of, it's so funny to think back, man, because they were like, Caliber was like, okay, well, there's no budget for the book. So your guys' page rate is $0, but it's exposure. Your work will be published and on the shelves in comic shops. And at the time, we were so desperate and so hungry to break in that we said, that's great. That's fine. Like we're willing to go for it and pay our dues and just get a published book on the shelves of whatever comic shop is going to carry this thing. So,
do you think that did any good for you though in the end?
I don't think so, because the book got canceled after like 3 issues because of low sales. So, but at the same time, I mean, that kind of like some people saw the book, like, I became buddies with Phil Hester at the time, and he was doing a book called Fringe at Caliber, and he wound up throwing some inking work at me and actually paying me. It wasn't huge money, but Phil's a really good guy, and he was like, hey, man, if you want to ink some backgrounds, I've got pages I can FedEx you tomorrow, and I'll give you, I don't know what it was, like $20 a page or whatever. So when you're 20 years old and you're desperate, I mean, to me, all of that stuff, like I said yes to everything. So
yeah, I think worrying about how much money there is and all those kinds of things, it's when you're starting out, it is not the time for that. Yeah, you don't want to get taken advantage of, but you also have to take the opportunities when they come.
Yes. So it's just knowing. It's also for me, like, it goes back to that having fun idea and knowing, and if you're going to do something for not great money, you should at least be enjoying that thing. And hopefully the editors or whoever's in charge is giving you a lot of creative freedom. Like, hey, there's not a lot of money in this, but basically you get to do what you want,
It's looking amazing. It went from just a little bit there to you could stop at any time, and please don't get me wrong, but yeah.
Thanks, man. Well, yeah. Now I'm basically just in automatic pilot mode where I'm kind of just filling space. And at this point too, I'm also, with this style, there comes a decision where it's like, okay, there's some drawing mistakes happening in this, but do I want to try and correct things, or do I just kind of want the drawing to exist on its own and let it just sort of be its own thing? So for example, like I was off on this leg right here. And so do I disguise that with, chunking in a bit of black over here? This arm is a bit too short. It should be a bit more out here, but it's a freestyle pen drawing in a notebook. This isn't going to be the cover of my next production. So, we're having fun. We're having fun on Thursday night,
That arm was so incredibly difficult to draw, actually, that bent arm. Looking at it in the picture, it kind of made sense, but the minute I tried to get it in, to me, it looks like I've got my arm kind of connected halfway down her chest, and couldn't really make that work.
It was deceiving spatial kind of thing.
Yeah, and not the kind of thing you would ever run into, really, the way that I've always drawn. So it's, kind of a benefit of using a little reference and just giving some of that stuff a try. I will say, in my defense, I do use reference here and there. There are times for figures, especially I'm doing a lot of Walking Dead covers, and so much that's real world based, and I just end up having no choice but drawing a character rescuing another character with an arm draped over. It's hard to make some of that stuff up. So,
yeah. So for Walking Dead, man, you're obviously having to reference all these characters that are pre-established, but you're filtering that into your own style, right?
Yeah, which I'm finding really easy. The original art in the book is so well done, and he was very good at drawing real world characters, but making them very easily recognizable, which is not a universal skill. So it just hasn't been a challenge. I found I could draw them my way, and there's never any difficulty knowing who it is, just based on how they were originally designed.
Yes, that's Charlie Adler, correct?
Yes, yeah,
he's incredibly talented.
Yeah. I think he just did a Batman story. Just saw that was coming out.
Oh, awesome. I need to get the trade, but I read the first issue of he was doing a new book. It's still out. It's called Damn Them All, I believe. And it's like a dark magic kind of series, and it's almost like I want to say almost like a John Constantine Hellraiser kind of vibe.
Huh.
And I read the first issue or two of that, and I need to buy the trade, but it's very good. It's awesome. I don't know if there's anybody in the chat right now that can elaborate on my lack of knowledge, but someone out there has got to know.
Someone knows.
The chat knows. They always know. Dave, one thing I was curious about was this might be an ignorant thing to ask, but like the painted stuff that you're doing now, the analog painted stuff, did that just start recently or
No? I the first time I painted was, I want to say, 97.
Okay.
A long time ago. And I did a little bit with it, and then I just couldn't, work got in the way, and so I stopped. And then over the years, every once in a while, I kind of get back into it, and it's like learning from scratch almost again. I just never really developed a method. And so over the last couple of years with Eric, we've been painting a lot, and finally kind of developing especially as we're doing something that's creative and different. I hate to say we're developing like a standardized method, but that is kind of the point, just getting something that we can, predictably use. So yeah, I've been getting more comfortable with it, and I'd really like to be able to do it more, for covers and that kind of thing. I've done a bit, but I'd like to do more.
It's incredible stuff, man. Both of you guys are doing amazing stuff. And there's even, I mean, when I first saw it, I mean, to me, there's shades of late 80s, early 90s Bisley painted work.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
With the way that you're highlighting and making specific marks with paint. And to me, I mean, that era of the biz is some of my favorite stuff ever. So to me, I was kind of like, oh man, these you guys are referencing all the right stuff, in my opinion. You know?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I'm a massive Simon Bisley fan, and Glenn Fabry and Greg Staples, and like kind of that whole British school from that period. I love that stuff, and so yes, that's 100% what I'm trying to do. And yeah, I feel like I'll have. Well, I would consider anybody being able to recognize some Simon Bisley in there for me as a success. I mean, he was such a genius. So I'll take any kind of tiny little bit of it. That's fine.
That's awesome. No, that's one of the things I first picked up, and I felt a little, I feel a little ignorant saying that it because I don't know when I saw it, maybe a year or two ago, but I just didn't really realize that you were doing fully painted work, and it was obviously not digital. You know, it was analog painting, and to me, it's like, oh wow, that's a big deal to pull off. You know.
Well, thank you. It's been a challenge, you know, and I like to think it's keeping me young. Just
yes, yeah.
You know, to strive for. You always need that. I'm really enjoying it. I'm actually working on an Invincible painting right now. I've been working on it for a week, and oh man, I'm trying to be more colorful, and the struggle that I'm going through.
Right. That's awesome though, man. I think that's one of the very important things about, to me anyway, of being an artist and being a professional and staying engaged is always pushing yourself and kind of trying new things. And I wound up going through several kind of manifestations of style throughout my career. And when I started professionally, and I got like the Clerks gig with Kevin Smith in like 97. The book came out in like 98. That was a very big deal for me. That was kind of like defining moment of putting me out there into the world as a pro.
Yeah.
But I was doing this very, very simple, flat, cartoonish style on that stuff with a very thick black outline around everything, that they wound up using that style for the Clerks animated cartoon that ABC did. And
I remember,
I was pissed off at the time because they did not use me. But it kind of dawned on me after that incident happened that like, well, you can't copyright a drawing style. You can copyright your characters, but if you have a style that's easily biteable from other people, you're kind of setting yourself up for anyone can sample your work in a way. And
yeah,
that was one of the things that made me go back to like, I'm going to start looking at Sienkiewicz again and Dave McKean cages and the more like looser expressionistic guys. And of course, late 80s, early 90s, Bisley pen and ink work on like Lobo and some of the other weird stuff he was doing with like Kevin Eastman at the time, Melting Pot and that kind of stuff. So it actually helped me out a lot because I was able to free myself of this kind of stiff, predictable style and get into something that was more fun, playful, loose, and people didn't really know what to expect from me next. And I like that. Like I like not being able to be pigeonholed into a box as an artist or a stylist.
Well, yeah, it gives you so much ability to just go wherever you want to go, and you've developed an audience that's willing to follow you there, which is great.
Yes. Thank you to those brave souls who have.
I remember an interview with Bill Sienkiewicz. This is an old interview, and he was talking about he started out. He was very close to Neil Adams, and he went to a convention, and everybody was calling him a Neil Adams clone, which was devastating for him. He was very, very upset, and that's what led him into totally moving away from that. I love
Yeah.
it. I'm looking at what you're doing right now. That's incredible.
Oh yeah, so we've moved on to. I guess I can show everybody real quick. But as a joke, I sent this to Dave and Eric. But we have a dog in a ghost outfit with a pumpkin. This is just one of the. I'll just screenshot stuff I see on like Instagram and Twitter and add it to my iPad of like, well, that'll go in my reference file, and I'll just use that at some point one day, you know. I'm changing the dog and making him a bit more ferocious, but also I tend to change photo reference instinctually anyway, because I don't want to get sued by anyone. Not that that would ever happen, but just in case, you know.
Yeah, better safe than sorry. I think if you're tracing something, I think that could happen. Otherwise, I'm pretty sure you're safe. But
yeah, I mean, who knows? This dog owner might be completely flattered that
Forever immortalized.
yeah.
I'm sure. I have no doubt.
Rex, or whatever the dog's name is now immortalized on the Dave Finch drawing stream.
I had a question I was going to ask, and I completely forgot. I looked up and I saw the dog, and it just killed me. It's awesome.
It just threw you for a loop.
Oh, I remember. I was talking about Bill Sienkiewicz. Anyway, apparently, he had a lot of fans that loved the Neil Adams work that he was doing, and people that were supporting his work. And it's an important thing to have. And when he turned his back on it, his fans that were supporting him up to that point really didn't take it well, and basically abandoned him. He had to find a whole new audience. And I think now,
yeah,
he really takes the audience wherever he wants to go. You know, he's very, very original, and you can see his influences. You know, I will say, like, you can see the Bob Peak and Phil Ontes and some of the illustration stuff in there. But
oh yeah, man, I mean, to me, he's one of the greatest American illustrators of all time, and you know, I consider him a friend. We've talked, and every time I see him at a convention, we always stop and catch up. And he's done some quotes for me for some of my art books. He did a variant cover for my Girl Scouts 2017 series that was absolutely mind-blowing. It's kind of one of the highlights of my entire career is I convinced Bill Sienkiewicz to do a variant cover for me.
oh yeah,
And it was funny because he agreed to do it, and I asked him very, very early on before the book came out, and he said, I can do it, but can you give me like a year to do it? And I said, actually, yes, I can. And he gave me like his number and his email and everything. And he's like, now I want you to check in on me every couple months or so, just to remind me that you need this piece. And then it was so funny. I started to get nervous. He sent me a really beautiful line drawing maybe 2 weeks before the book was going to print. And then the day the artwork was due, like, no more waiting. The book is at the printer. We're screwed if Bill doesn't turn in the cover. I woke up that morning and there was a file waiting for me. And I opened it, and it's this absolutely gorgeous, mind-blowing Bill Sienkiewicz fully painted cover, not digital, analog, of my characters that I created. So pretty amazing.
yeah, definitely worth the heartburn.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, it was, you know. And he kind of played it off like, oh yeah, man, I know. I wasn't going to let you down. I'm like, well, you waited till the very last minute, basically, you know, but it's like, you can't complain, man. You just got a cover from the master, you know.
Yeah.
We did a live painting event in 2016, Bill contacted Jason Sean Alexander and I. Jason Sean is incredible artist.
Oh yeah, he's so good. He's such a great oil painter and a great inker. He's one of my favorites, and a very nice guy.
Fantastic dude, good friend of mine. Bill was doing this Bernie Sanders fundraiser. This was right before the 2016 election, and I was living in LA at the time, and it was at Meltdown Comics, which was right down the street from where I lived.
Which burned down. Is that right? Am I wrong saying that? Meltdown?
You know, they closed. They officially closed in like 2018, right after I moved out of LA, and then that block that it was on, I believe that entire block did burn down.
Okay.
So very weird, man. It was to me, because I used to hang out there all the time.
Yeah, I was there quite a bit. Actually, Nathan Cabrera, I don't know if you know him.
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
Yeah, he had a studio in the back, and
Yep.
we used to, I drew a bunch of stuff back there with him over the years. So,
oh, that's right. Were you? So, man, when were you? You were living in California.
no, I was living in Canada, but I would come and visit, and I would stay at Nathan's place, and then go hang out at the studio. So
that makes sense. Okay, yeah, Nathan was. I moved to LA in early 2003, and Nathan was one of the first people I met, and we're basically the same age, and we just instantly became buddies. And he was kind of tapped into, the basically the LA art scene in general, not just comics, but
I know he knows everybody. He really does.
yeah. So hanging out with him, I was able to meet fantastic people. And Meltdown, like I said, it was kind of like being able to walk there. It became my home away from home.
It's a small world.
Oh yeah, man. So we did this event at Meltdown, and it was live streamed, and a big crowd of people came and watched Jason and Bill and I paint. And the craziest thing ever was like just standing. I was in the middle. Bill was on to the right of me. Jason was to the left of me. Just standing next to Bill and watching him paint live on this huge canvas. It just made me paint better. Like his magic sorcery just somehow, I guess, was floating through the air, and I just was suddenly like, oh, I'm able to paint better somehow. I don't know how this is happening. And after the event was over, Bill had to take off. He had somewhere to go, but a bunch of us went next door to this bar. We're hanging out, talking, and I had several artist friends that were like, you guys were all great, but Bill Sienkiewicz is just a magical alien from outer space, because some of the things he was doing, some of the process he was doing, there was no rhyme or reason to it. It was just, he knows what to do, and he's an expert at doing that.
Yeah, well, and I was going to say, I don't think he knows. He does know. I don't think he knows what he's going to do. I think he just goes for it. Now, this is me guessing.
Yes.
But I think he's got so much skill that he can just riff on anything and then it just works.
Yeah, man. It's pretty incredible to and that was another thing too, is like, as a kid discovering his work on New Mutants, and then Electra Assassin is one of my favorite things ever. Just looking at that and referencing that, but then also knowing like, oh, I get to paint next to this guy. That's a trip. I mean, I don't know how you feel, Dave, in your career, if you've had those moments of like, oh, I'm now talking to one of my greatest heroes.
Oh yeah. Well, I remember my first day of working professionally, I met Mark Silvestri, who was my favorite, and Jim Lee, and just watching Jim Lee draw, pencil would never leave the page. He just never made a mistake. And
Wow.
I'm sure it's happened, but I didn't see it, And he was so patient. We would all stand there. The whole studio was 10 artists, young artists, just gathered around his desk, watching him draw all day. Travis Trest.
Oh man.
Yeah, he sat right beside me when I started. and that was humbling, to say the least.
What a lineup of talent, man. So what can you remind me, like, what years were you there?
I was there in '94, so this would have been the summer, July of '94. I was at Homage Studios for 2 months, and then we moved to LA. The Top Cow studio moved to LA. So I got 2 months of working alongside, Jim Lee and J. Scott Campbell and Travis, and then we started in LA, and it was Joe Benitez, me, Billy Tan was there. Mike Turner came along just 2 months later, just about. So
Awesome.
yeah, it was an exciting time. Mike Turner came along and completely changed everything about what Top Cow was. It was pretty amazing.
Oh yeah, yeah. He definitely made an impact, right? I mean,
Oh yeah, he did. And I remember not only thinking this, but I remember telling other artists that he was making such a okay. I'm going to admit I said this behind his back. So, but I said, oh yeah, what he's doing with Witchblade, nobody's going to go for this. Like he's drawing a computer and it looks like a computer. It doesn't
right.
like, where are all the tubes and where's all the cool stuff? And that came out, and yeah, it completely changed everything. He did something really fantastic and grounded it, which we weren't doing. So it was very cool. And obviously his work was beautiful. He drew beautiful women.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, that there's a elegance to all of it. It. Speaking of Joe Benitez, I was in Belgium right after I did New York Comic Con last October, and then was crazy enough to go straight from New York to Belgium for a con. I rarely do 2 in a row. I think that's like a huge mistake, just like health wise and stuff.
Oh yeah.
But I went for it because this awesome crew in Belgium, brought me over and paid for my whole trip and everything. So I got to the show, and my neighbor at the convention was Joe, and he's just a really good guy. And
Yeah, he is.
It was nice to be able to spend a weekend with him and hang out and catch up and everything.
It's funny. Forget just what a small business this is and how much we all really kind of know each other when it really comes down to it.
Yes, it's crazy, man. Do you feel like at this point that you've basically met everyone, right? That works in the industry? Would you say?
Mostly, there are a couple I haven't met. There are some artists that just don't do a lot of conventions, and that makes it a little tougher. But yeah, for the most part, I've met just about everybody, which is awesome. I never got to meet Glenn Fabry. That's one day, and I've even been at a convention with him, and I didn't. There are times. Okay, you know what? I'm so bad with names. It's always a problem for me. But Black Sad, the artist of Black Sad, was incredible, and I'm a huge fan. I love his stuff. He sat in New York. I was on one side of a table. He was just across the center. He was right there, and I didn't go up and talk to him the whole time. I was just too intimidated. I didn't know what to say. So
yeah,
I was fortunate enough to meet Glenn Fabry Day.
Yes, yeah, Eric.
Yeah, that was great.
Wow, look at that.
So down to earth, and yeah, it was great.
He was a cool guy.
Oh yeah, very nice guy. He was doing a bunch of commissions, and I saw some of his artwork there. I was trying to ask as much questions as I could and just soak up information. He was pretty forthcoming. It was a real treat.
That's great, man.
Gordino, thank you so much. And Kevin, appreciate it. Yeah, always a problem for me. See that, Eric? Got my name on it. Take a look here. Look up. Check that out.
Finch
Productions. Yeah, there we go. Legit.
Unbelievable.
Dave's gonna make you tear that page out of your sketchbook.
I would not think of it, but that's very, very cool.
I'm also going to sneak in, guys.
No, as I mean, tear it out and send it to Dave. So Dave
no.
it. Yeah.
Oh, hey, look at that.
We got this. Awesome. We got this weird dude too. I'm going to try and sneak a little bit of him in as well.
All right.
I'll try to put each one in here, but
Well,
I'm smudging ink everywhere.
so Eric, really quickly, let's kind of show what we're working on.
Oh, you don't have to. That's all right.
Okay, well, I'm looking at.
I,
can see Eric.
want to see. We'd like to see.
Okay, I'll show mine really quickly, and Eric, if you want to change your camera, if you don't mind.
Oh, I don't know what happened.
Here's
Oh,
what I've
wow.
got.
I
I
did not mean to do that.
Whoa.
don't know what I'm doing, so I just started throwing in a bunch of stuff. I put in a motorcycle. I thought it'd be fun.
Dude, that's badass. That's awesome. The skateboard guy in the upper right. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
I
It
have
is
no,
so much
I have
fun.
no line weight going on, so I got a bunch to do.
All right, here we go.
Nice.
Nice.
Oh, you got the ghost dog.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
I'm gonna have to book it with line weight. But
And Batman. You can never go wrong with Batman.
Awesome.
This is fun, guys.
Yeah, this is a blast. Now I need to figure out what I'm going to put on this thing next. And I put the skateboard guy on there and kind of broke my composition, so I got work ahead of me.
So we were all hanging out at OAX in Orlando,
Mhm.
and I thought that that was also a great show just to not only meet collectors, but to also just chat with all the other all the badass artists that were there. Man, it was a good time.
Yeah, there were so many artists, and it
yeah,
was
it was almost surreal.
a bit of a quieter show. I mean, it was well attended, but it was collectors, so it was not just as many people, basically, So
Right.
it meant, yeah, we really got to hang out a little more and talk. And I go to conventions sometimes. I'm sure you have this happen too, where I sit at the table and I basically don't talk to anybody. I talk to people that come up to the table, but I just don't get around to see anybody, especially in New York, because it's always so busy.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
So Jim was sitting almost right across from me. I didn't get a chance to talk to him. I didn't get a chance to walk the floor much at all, which is a pity. There's so many people I wanted to speak to.
Well, it means you had a good show, though. So
Yeah, it was very, very busy. But yeah, all the artists I spoke to said they had an absolute blast.
It was cool, man. Sunday I had was a little slower for me, so I had the opportunity to actually just go and hang out with different artists and go through portfolios and ask questions. And it's just kind of like I said earlier. I mean, to me, there's just so many badass people working right now that I think it's just a very exciting and inspiring time. I just love the variety of style and what people are able to do with this craft.
I can't think of a time when I've had a new favorite artist more often.
Right.
Whenever I like an artist, they're always my new favorite. And it's just every 2 months it's a new artist that I can't believe the work they're doing.
Yeah, man. It's like, where is all this coming from? It's exciting though. It keeps me motivated, and after a show like that, I mean, I am excited to get back home and draw and get back into the studio. And it was exciting that we were all able to go to Disney World on Monday. That was fun. That was awesome. But then Tuesday I had to go to the airport and deal with traveling home and all that. And I was just kind of like, all right, I'm ready for Wednesday to get up and just get back into, work mode and handle some stuff.
Yeah, the fun stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun at Disney. It was great.
So, do you find, or would you say, how do I want to say this? If you draw in a style that's very currently popular, like whoever the current artist is on Batman, that's generally a pretty, or X-Men or whatever it is, drawing in a style that's really similar to that is a good move in terms of career because it makes it easier to get work. And I feel like that's been a real problem for, a lot of mainstream comics, so many writers are I think because writers make the decisions on hiring artists a lot, are really risk averse in just finding artists or working with artists that are different. And I just haven't seen as much really wild stuff out there. And I feel like I'm starting to now, but do you think that it's much more difficult getting work and getting accepted doing something that's really different, or have you found that it hasn't really been too much of an issue?
Yeah, I do. In regards to mainstream Marvel and DC, I think that they're a little more. That they avoid taking risks a bit more. But it's funny, man. What has paid off for me actually is like my freelance illustration career. Like having a non-traditional kind of bugged out style has actually worked to my advantage. So I've done 6 or 7 loading screens for the Fortnite video game over the last 3 or 4 years. I did a limited edition vinyl record release with them earlier this year. That was total blast to do. And they give me a lot of freedom. The character design work I mentioned earlier, I mean, that kind of stuff for animation. And so it's weird, man. I feel like everyone kind of knows where to use me and except for like the mainstream sort of comic book market. But I mean, maybe that's for a reason, you know.
I can't imagine that's been too much of an issue, though. I mean, with all the, I really have, you know, the mainstream comic market. I've done a little design work, but really not much. It's just not the kind of artist I've ever been. So you have a lot more opportunities. Ultimately, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and you know, I mean, just to, I guess, speak frankly, it's like for me, there's way more money actually in illustration.
Yeah,
and getting these gigs with, like, I mean, Fortnite is owned by Epic Games, and Epic Games has you know, they have hundreds of millions of dollars. They're not paying me millions of dollars, obviously, unfortunately, but what they do pay for one single illustration compared to like what I would get for a single illustration for like a comic book cover, it's like 5 times the money. So, you know, it's one of those situations of I can kind of make my money in different arenas, and I can sell original art, and I can do commissions for people, and that's all great. And then I can go off and do like my indie creator-owned comic, like Girl Scouts at Image, and it still makes money, which is great, but it's not like making Walking Dead money, you know?
I will say I feel like the amazing studio that you have is making a lot more sense to me now.
Oh, yeah.
Not dealing with comic money. The fact is, comics can pay well. You can do well, but it's a very small industry, so it's never going to pay as much as video games. That you know, who doesn't play video games nowadays?
Yeah, it's funny. I am not a gamer because I would never get any work done. But when I got called by Fortnite originally, my youngest brother is a gamer, and I had to ask him what Fortnite was. You know, and he was just kind of like, if you don't take that gig, you're an idiot. You know, he's like, Fortnite's like one of the biggest games out there. So
yeah, I don't play Fortnite, you know, but I don't know how you would avoid knowing what that is. It's like not knowing who Taylor Swift is right now.
Right. I guess I had heard of it. I just didn't know what the scope of it was. You know,
Okay,
like,
yeah, that makes sense for sure. Yeah.
You know, it's crazy to think of how many people that stuff reaches, you know.
Yeah, it really is. Well, I could believe it. I play enough video games. I definitely lose a little bit of time with that.
What do you play?
A few different things. I like survival games a lot. Basically, a game where I can just sit and be with the game rather than like the fast Twitch games. I'm just no good at those.
Mm-hmm.
But my rule is, I've got a computer in my office. I never play PC games, like computer games. I just limit it to the console upstairs, play for an hour, and then let it go. If I started downloading games on my computer here, that'd be it. I could wrap it all up. Never work again.
That would become a problem potentially.
Yes. Well, it's been a problem. That rule didn't come out of nowhere.
And what about having things on when you are working? Do you ever get distracted and actually stop and just watch, or?
Yeah, a lot actually. Which is why books on tape is good. It's really difficult for me to just sit there and listen to a book and do nothing else. But yeah, sometimes watching a movie or something, I catch myself half an hour in and I've just been sitting watching the movie instead of working. So it happens. So with the style that you have, with the detail that you're putting in, all that kind of thing, I know so much of it really comes from sketchbooking, just like this. But how much of it comes from other artists and influences? And who would you say your influences are for the kind of work that you do?
We mentioned Sienkiewicz. He's at the top of my list. Jamie Hewlett, the original Tank Girl work that he did in the late 80s, early 90s. When I discovered that when I was in college and art school, that completely blew my mind. And when I saw his work, I was kind of like, okay, well, this is what I want to do. I want to do this level of like fun, sexy, punk rock, badass, stylized rock and roll kind of comics.
I think he's a really big influence on Andrew Robinson too, or James.
Oh yeah.
Eric, help
Andrew's amazing, man.
Thank you, Andrew. Oh man, I even have some. This is always a problem for me, Jim. I forget names, and I'm only 50. It's only going to get worse.
Oh, dude, I feel you. Another a guy that I've always loved, but I've really been looking at a lot again lately is Mobius. I mean, obviously one of the greatest of all time, and I think maybe some of his hyper stylized line drawings are seeping into some of this sketchbook.
I feel like I can see a little Mobius here and there, just a bit of like this one in some ways actually reminds me of Sergio Topi.
Oh, I love Topi as well. I've got all of his art books. Yeah. Topi is amazing. I like, some of those bugged out, like psychedelic heavy metal type guys, European stuff. I love the Hernandez brothers. Love and Rockets is one of my favorites. And even when I started self-publishing my own comics in the 90s in art school, I was looking at lots of Dan Klaus, 8-Ball, Evan Dorkin, Peter Bagg, Hate, like that kind of black and white Fantagraphics stuff. But at the same time, as I mentioned, I was, obsessed with like Bisley, and I love the original 80s black and white Mirage Studios Ninja Turtle stuff. The grittiness, the stuff that's got a bit of texture and grime to it, and that duo shade paper, that kind of stuff. And then at the same time, I'm also a huge Jack Kirby fanatic. Like I've got pretty much all of Jack's body of work. I don't know if you really see any Kirby in my work, but I just think the fact that this one guy had that level of imagination is a staggering kind of thing.
It really is. It took me a long time, I have to admit, to appreciate Jack Kirby. I love John Byrne and Jim Lee, and the really like that kind of prototype of artist.
Oh yeah,
Vestry, and he was incredibly creative, but anatomy very much took a backseat. It was really stylized in a really interesting way, but I didn't appreciate it it was a long time for me.
Yeah, I understand, man. For me, it really is like observing his body of work as a whole and just seeing like, how is it possible that one person had this level of creativity and imagination? He designed this many characters, these many worlds, all this technology, vehicles, like it just all came out of this one guy. To me is it's really, really staggering.
And just the speed at which he works as well is just insane.
Yeah. Definitely.
Well, so many designs that you see all over the place now for characters that just kind of get repeated over and over again, just as like motifs he created.
Yes.
And drawn 50 pages a day. Maybe not that, but a lot more than we do. That's for sure.
Yeah. I think he's got some world records possibly that he still holds as far as like amount of pages penciled in a year or a day or whatever it is. It's pretty amazing. But yeah, man, that fourth world stuff, the new god stuff, the cosmic things that came out of his mind are just I love it. It's awesome.
Yeah, I feel like it's a real shame. He died in 94. And I mean, he was so respected that too, but comics just got so much more mainstream respect over the last 30 years since then, and he really never got to just appreciate how big it's all gotten, which is it's sad.
I know. Yeah, I think I'm assuming his family, benefits off of what has happened with I know there was kind of, I guess, like an out of court settlement with Marvel as far as like money and issues like that go. And I think at the end of the day, Jack was a guy who just was working every single day for his family. He was very blue collar that way. And I think that knowing that they are taken care of, like that's all that he would want,
Yeah. Chris Maycock is super late for this one. You definitely are.
What did I miss?
Dave, did you meet Jack Kirby?
No, I got into comics. Now I was going to conventions trying to get work before 94, but anybody that I really met was after I got in. And so, yeah, unfortunately, I never got to meet him. I never got to meet Frank Rosetta. He was actually at a San Diego that I was at. We found out it was a bunch of the Top Cow guys, and we all ran back to where somebody said that he was at a booth, and we missed him. And unfortunately, I never got the chance, which is too bad. But
yeah, it's hard sometimes.
There are so many legendary artists that I did get to meet that are gone now. So I sat beside Gene Colan for an entire San Diego. So I think it was 4 days at the time, maybe. But
wow,
he's the nicest guy. And just behind us was Dick Giordano.
Oh yeah.
Did you ever meet Bernie Wrightson, Dave?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, a few times, and it was really nice.
Bernie was awesome. I got to ride on the shuttle with him to the airport after a Heroes Con one year. And it was just me and like him and his wife. And he was super nice guy. It was awesome.
Yeah, the last time I only talked to him a couple of times. So the last time I talked to him, it was in the green room at a convention, and his wife was there. So I talked to both of them. They were great. And that was shortly before he passed away. So yeah, it's always a surprise.
Yeah, you never know. It's I did get to meet Kirby in San Diego in 1992 at his 75th birthday party. anyone with a badge could go into the party and wait in line. And Jack was hanging out like by this big birthday cake. And if you wanted to wait in line, you could go up to the man and shake his hand. And I did that. I was 17 years old, I think. And I still have the photo from it.
Wow.
And I look like a little, I look like a little kid.
17, yeah.
He was cool though. He was so nice. And I told him something like, man, I'm an aspiring artist. And when I get older, I'm going to make it in comics. And I'm sure he said this to every single kid who said the same thing to him, but he was like, just keep at it, young man. You'll get there, you know? And I was like, awesome. Thanks, Mr. Kirby. It was so cool. It was great.
Yeah. And I'm sure he did. I mean, he's not wrong though. It's so many artists don't make it because they just stop. I've seen so many incredibly talented artists just quit. It gets hard and they quit. So just having the perseverance to keep going, I think the number one ingredient.
Yes. Dave, did you go through a period of rejection before getting in? I mean, did you have kind of a struggle or?
I did. And I think my struggle mostly was, I didn't really start drawing until I was 20. I broke in at 22 and I started showing samples. I think I'd been drawing for 6 months. And no, I had drawn, but really actually trying to draw comics and learn anatomy and that kind of thing. So my first convention was ego shattering, you know, it didn't go well. And then about 6 months later, maybe a little bit longer, I put out some more samples and went to another convention and same thing. I think it was a little better maybe, but yeah, it took me a couple years to get to the point where I could get work. Even then, Top Cow was just looking to hire interns. So they would give you a chance. And I was drawing, Mark Silvestri was my favorite. So drawing kind of in that style, not well, but well enough that they figured they could try and hammer it into something. So I wasn't ready when I started working, but I think I got very lucky.
Mm-hmm.
You know, some artists, and I started, now I don't know how it went for you. For me, when I started, I just basically started. I was working as an intern. I made $100 a week for a little while, and you know, had a little apartment that I shared with some other artists there. And it just, one job always rolled into another at Top Cow, and then I was at Marvel. So I never really had too much of a struggle, honestly. I know so many artists that have, like, I broke in and then, you know, 6 months go by and no other opportunities come, and you know, it's more of a journey.
Yes, it's different for everyone. Everyone has kind of a different story. You know, it's interesting when you get to when you're at a convention and everyone kind of, if you're hanging out at dinner or whatever, or at the bar, and people have like almost like their war stories of how they got in or what editor they had to meet or talk to or whatever, you know.
Now, I want to say this quickly. You can visit Jim's website. Check out the cover to his new sketchbook, The Ballpoint Slayer, as well as his creator-owned comic, Girl Scouts, Stone Ghost, at jimmahfood.com. I should have said this a couple of times since we've been doing this, Jim. I'm sorry. We're drawing. I'm watching what you're doing, and also just the way that I've been drawing, just trying to throw stuff on the page and have fun with it. I think it's been so relaxing. I've kind of forgot we're doing a stream.
Dude, that's awesome. That's a great sign.
We're just talking and drawing. It's been great.
Yeah, I feel the same way, where I just feel like, oh, this is just I'm at the coffee shop now and I'm just hanging out, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I have to admit, I kind of ran out of ideas just a few minutes ago. Every once in a while, I'll pick the pen up and think, okay, I'll try and put something else in. Wow.
Yeah, I'm nearing this being filled to the brim with detail and line work to where that's what's kind of cool about this stuff though, is you can just kind of keep adding and you know, I usually know when to walk away, but at the same time, it's fun to just kind of play around as well.
Yeah. That dog, I guess the sheet hanging off the dog's face there in the bottom, some of the way that you did that almost reminds me of, you remember the electric company in the 70s?
Yes. Yes.
Is that intentional or is that just like it really, some of that look, you know?
You know, I'm adjusting my light real quick, but I wouldn't have thought of that, but I was a huge electric company fan as a little kid. And that's where I discovered Spider-Man.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah. And that discovery of Spider-Man is what started my fascination with comic books, because as soon as I went to the grocery store with my mom and I saw that this weird Spider-Man character had comic books, you know, my mom bought one for me and that was kind of it. I was immediately hooked with, you know, these crazy drawn stories on paper, and the electric company is to blame, you guys. That's what I'm saying.
There you go. Greg L. Static Art is here. Good to see you, Greg. He has a super chat for $2. He says, not home, but wanted to pop in and support. Really, really
nice seeing Greg at OAX, dude. That was a nice surprise.
Yeah, we talked for a while at OAX. It was great. I am assuming he's at work right now.
Yeah, I think so.
Extreme AP says, okay, gentlemen, let's see him. So let's do it. Let's show you one last look. And now I have to admit, I've stopped. I totally ran out of ideas. So this is,
wow.
It got cut off just a little bit, but and there's the top. But yeah, it really doesn't have the for as much as it's a sketch style, Jim, what you're doing has so much of a compositional layering. Like everything is very clear. It's amazing how you do it. I feel like I really kind of ended up with a little bit more of a muddy look.
But dude, if you're, I mean, for not doing this approach of drawing, I mean, this is totally awesome. Like this is just you unhinged and experimenting and putting down lines. And I mean, you don't normally just freestyle like this. So I think it looks fantastic.
Well, thank you so much, really. And it was a lot of fun.
And this, again, the skateboarding dude with the knee pad, that
is cool.
That speaks to my heart up there. That's awesome.
Oh
wow.
Eric, the most fearless artist on the face of the earth, because we are taking you, Eric, so far out of your comfort zone doing this.
Yeah.
So far, and you're willing to go on and just go for it.
Yeah,
And,
Pac-Man's in there. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Put some Kirby crackle in for Jim as well.
I love it. Thank you.
Yeah.
It's awesome, man.
Yeah, it's a huge challenge. A lot of fun, though.
Yeah, compositionally, it really came together in the end with like some of the tubes and the Pac-Man stuff. That's very, very cool.
I'm so glad that you guys said that it was at least fun, because I feel like, at least I didn't torture these guys with my my weird shit that I do.
I knew this would be fun. This has been an absolute blast. And for those of you guys watching, for all of you guys watching, I'm sure you had a whole lot of fun watching Jim draw this. But I really hope if you haven't tried some of this while we're doing this, you will try it soon. I can just say for my part, I never get this kind of experience drawing. Just pushing the line around and having fun and not worrying about what happens. I never get that opportunity, and I'd like to do it more.
Yeah.
So hopefully you guys will give it a try too. And, you know, I get the question, how do you find a style all the time? Well, you know, looking at other artists and picking up things from our other artists, that's really my main advice for doing that. But that's going to kind of get you to more of a conventional style, which is what I have. If you want something that really is going to blow people away with originality and creativity, you need to be doing this. And I hope that you will give it a try. Greg L has another super chat. Thank you so much, Greg. He says, Eric, great to meet you in person. Dave, can't thank you enough for your time and help. Very, very appreciated. Thank you so much. Yeah, it was a pleasure. Absolutely. It was great to see you. It's beautiful.
And if anyone has been drawing along with us tonight, tag me or DM me online because I want to see what people were doing.
Yeah, definitely check out Jim's Instagram. Maybe Russ can put it in the chat.
Yeah. Everything is just under my name. So just Jim Mahfood on Instagram, Twitter, and jimmahfood.com. I'm very easy to find. I just kept all of my branding as my name. So
Henry Jeremy says, hey, Dave, you have lots of room on the right-hand side. It's true. It's true. I
think the hardest part of this is everything you're putting down is a design shape. And that is what's difficult.
It is. And you know what? The minute I start drawing anything, whatever it is, then I'm fine. But it's sitting here going, okay, now what do I put on this? I don't know.
Yeah. The other thing too, man, is like, if people aren't into, and if we need to wrap this up, I'll do this super quick, but there's another exercise of just like, fully drawing straight in pen, not lifting the pen up, basically, like say this is Batman. But this is kind of an exercise I do as well, just to get loose in the morning or whatever, of like, what are the planes? What is the shape of things? And this is more of just like a scratchy, scribbly kind of thing. But, this is also what we were doing earlier might seem a bit more precious to people. And this is more of like, just, you can just make lines and have fun and get loose. And it's almost like it turns into abstract art or something, expressionistic art or something. But it's also kind of a cool way to just figure out what shapes do you like to make, but anyway.
Great.
Hopefully that's not, hopefully that makes sense to people.
I found that pen that I was talking about, Jim.
Oh yeah. What is that?
I can show you the pen here once you're done there.
Oh yeah, go for it, man. This is just, me making a mess.
Oh yeah.
I'm just watching right now.
Yeah.
It's something incredibly relaxing about watching you do that.
Oh yeah. I love watching other people draw. I mean, it's just interesting to see like what decisions people make and how people, everyone's different. Everyone's got their own kind of signature marks that they make and decisions. And that's one of my things, like in Artist Alley, I'll sometimes just take a break when I go to the bathroom and I'll just creep on other artists and just catch them while they're working and just see like what's going on.
That's awesome.
Batman, guys, he's always angry. He's always lurking. There's always smoke around him.
Kind of reminds me of Paul Pope a little bit.
Oh, I love Paul.
Yeah, me too. He's great. Another artist with a very individual style. Dawa Janice has a $50 super chat. Thank you so much.
Very
nice. Generous. He says, thank you for sharing your knowledge and experience. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this was awesome, you guys. Thank you for having me. I'm just playing around at this point, but we could do, we'll part 2 will be the calligraphy or whatever.
We're gonna hold you to that
because that's a whole other thing. That's a whole other fun.
Yeah, get some dry brushing in there.
Bag of tricks,
You agreed to it.
Oh, dude,
Neither
I'll
am
come
I.
back. I'll come back anytime. This
Yeah.
is
Okay.
fun.
Awesome. Yeah, I definitely would love to do that. I am such a precious inker. It's really difficult for me to let go. So I think it'd be really, really good for me to try, and for all of you guys.
Nice.
I'm gonna cut this out and mail it to you, Dave. You can put it on your refrigerator.
Are you kidding? I'll put that on my wall.
Your family will be like, "What is this terrible thing on the fridge?"
It's awesome. I mean, there's just such a freedom to that line, even with a simple drawing where you threw a lot of lines just kind of randomly over it, even it still just has so much character to it.
Yeah, well, in the beginning of the show, I mean, for me, it does kind of go back to this idea of like, I really have to have fun when I'm working. Like I know it's work. It's how I make my living, but there's just times where it's like I just don't want it to feel like work, and so when it becomes play and experimentation, that just becomes fun, and
Yeah.
I would encourage everyone watching, even if they don't want to do this style, you can find ways to make mark making and making images fun for you, whatever works for you. Doesn't have to be necessarily this approach.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Jim, for coming on and drawing with us. And I'm very much looking forward to doing this again.
Absolutely.
And trying a few different tools and see if I can get a little bit better at just kind of relaxing and throwing stuff down.
Yeah, Dave, I want to show Jim this pen.
Oh yeah,
That's all right. I think he'll really like it. So it's called a Slicky, SLICCI.
Oh, nice.
That's what Ryan Stegman was using to ink. And this is a 1.6 millimeter with ballpoint. It's pretty thick, but this thing is super thin, and I believe it's a ballpoint too.
Wow. Okay.
Those these nice crisp lines. You can't even see them here. They're so over here. Compared to this one, of course. But,
Is there a number on that one, Eric?
I think it's 025. I don't know what.
Oh, okay.
It's
Okay.
a Pentel. It's a Pentel SLICCI.
Okay, cool.
And I bought this after the stream with Ryan after his recommendation.
And you like it?
To be honest, I used it maybe once. I'm just not I'm not a very good inker, and especially stuff like this. But I'm probably going to employ it a lot more after this.
Nice. Okay.
What I do like is it feels a lot like a Micron, but it's a ballpoint.
I like that. Okay, because I do use microns in my pen and ink work just for super, detailed stuff. But the felt tip of the micron, it's not reliable. Like they don't last.
Yeah, it's pretty much ballpoint. It's very hard.
Nice. Okay, I'm gonna try that one out.
Yeah.
I'm gonna start doing some Stegman-esque drawings.
Yeah, there we go.
That was a Freudian slip. I mentioned Stedman, and Ralph Steadman is actually one of my other artistic heroes. The guy who illustrated Hunter S. Thompson's Fear and Loathing and all that kind of stuff.
I am kind of familiar. Yeah.
He's a guy. He's another guy that Sienkiewicz definitely looked at. And he's, very loose, very splattery, very textural, but his drawings just kind of like punch you right in the face. I mean, they're great. They're very direct and expressionistic. And talk about fearlessness, man. There's like YouTube videos of him working in his studio he's in London, I believe, and he's just like splattering paint and ink and using an airbrush and mixed media, and he's just going nuts, man. His stuff is awesome. Like he's a wild man.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm gonna check that out actually right now. Especially being able to watch somebody work is always such a treat.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. Well,
I've been watching your videos, man. I mean, I discovered them a while ago, but in prep for this, just checking out everything you guys are doing, it's like art school on YouTube. It's amazing.
Well, thanks a lot. It's, everything that I know anyway, and there's so much that I don't, which is why it's so great to have artists like you on, and very, very much appreciated. Thank you so much for coming, and thank you all for watching. And I want to mention really quickly again that you could find Jim's sketchbook, The Ballpoint Slayer, as well as create her own comic, Girl Scouts Stone Ghost, at jimmafood.com. So go to jimmafood.com. You also have t-shirts there, prints, a bunch of different things. Oh, hang on.
That's the book.
And there's the book.
I write and draw, letter and color this guy for this girl for Image Comics. And then Dave mentioned the Ballpoint Slayer. That's my new art book of all this ballpoint stuff I was showing you guys. I'm getting a printer proof of that any day now. And then I will have those on the site within 2 to 3 weeks, I believe. And I'll also be at PlanetCon here in Kansas City next month, March. And I'll have all these goodies with me along with original art if any of you guys are cruising through PlanetCon.
Great.
Come say hi.
Yeah, for sure. Come say hi, but don't wait till PlanetCon to pick them up. So yeah,
Yes.
jimmafood.com. And thank you again so much.
Oh, you guys, my pleasure. And thank you, both of you, for having me. This was an awesome way to spend a Thursday night, man. This was great.
Yeah, this was an
A lot
absolute
of fun.
Definitely. Looking forward to doing it again.
Yeah.
Me too. Let's do it.
All right. Awesome. Thanks again. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Awesome. Take care.